All right, welcome back to another episode of Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. And hey, if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. If you're not a subscriber, feel free to add this channel as one of your subscriptions. If you like what we provide as content, give us a thumbs up. Add any comments or any topics that you'd like us to chat about or ask about. Would love to do a video on questions or content that is being requested by our subscribers. And so anyway, so let's without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. This episode right now is about China. We've had a couple episodes. We finished up our series with Berkshire Hathaway and their meetings, their shareholder meetings, and the Q&A. Got some great information from there. We had some content, some episodes on California. We're gonna have some more too. There's some other stuff that's starting to come out that's very interesting, and they're actually starting to do budget cuts. So imagine that, California actually feeling desperate enough to where they have to actually stop spending. But we'll see what that looks like and where that spending gets stopped at. But today is about China and China's woes. And I've done episodes on the BRICS, on the de-dollarization. This one's about China and de-dollarization and what the future of this looks like. And I find it very interesting, this pathway as we go through, you've heard me say before, and if you haven't, go check out some of our other episodes on the BRICS. I'm not a big believer in this BRICS, and meaning that it could happen. Just like the euro happened. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I just don't see it as it replacing the dollar or disrupting the dollar. And the reason being is that I think as a country, the United States as a country would get a lot of bad publicity, right? Some of it's very well earned and some of it is not. And this is a situation where I don't necessarily know if it's very well earned. We're hearing this thing, this conversation about weaponizing the dollar. Well, let's take a few steps back. Let's take a history lesson. Again, I'm not a historian, I'm not an economist, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I'm just a regular business owner who looks at things and go, hang on, time out. I believe something's wrong here. Right. I don't believe what we're being told here, or maybe there's a different perspective. And that's all I'm trying to do is bring a perspective to create a question for us to think about this a little bit more as business owners and folks that are citizens within this great nation of ours. So let's take a history lesson, okay? Let's go way back. We're in World War II. World War II ends, and we have this coming together of countries in this meeting. And in this meeting is where essentially the United States becomes the dollar becomes the kind of the main benchmark, so to speak, or bridge or foundation for the rest of the countries. And the reason being is what these countries want to do is globalization. That's what all these countries want to do. They all want to be part of. They all want a better life for their citizens. Which I don't. How can you disagree with that? Of course, you want a better life. I mean, in the United States, we're so spoiled. We can walk in a room, flip a switch, and we got electricity. Right? We can go use the restroom. We have running water. And not only do we have fresh water, but we have, when we flush the toilet or the water goes down the drain, it goes down a separate pipe to where there's bad water. All right. When you're in an RV, it's called gray or black water. Right. And we're spoiled. We have that. Right. And we don't go into a house until that infrastructure in that development, that stuff is already in place. It's not the case everywhere. And so we're very spoiled here. And so this globalization and these treaties between the United States and other countries for trade and allowing us to have them make or build or put the things together, goods and services for us as consumers, this is what makes America different than everybody else. We're consumers. We have the freedom to buy what we want and how we want. We have the freedom to go work a job and find a job or a different job or get a different skill or change skills or not work, or we have the freedom to do whatever the heck we want from that perspective, obviously within laws, right? But there's also the freedom of not having to abide by laws, right? And go be a criminal. You have that right. And there's consequences to that as well, right? And so here, when we buy and consume, that's what makes America so great. But that's what drives the economy around the rest of the world. Okay, that's what drives the economy around the rest of the world. So the dollar was really a benchmark to compare other currencies to see how to measure an economy. Central banks started to pop up in all these other countries. right? And the infrastructure in some of these other countries became very similar to the United States. Okay. And so now fast forward to here, we have China. The reason why, again, we use China is because they have less expensive labor, right? They don't care about laws. They don't care about pollution. And for us as Americans, that's great. We do care about all that stuff. But now we're starting to care that they don't care, right? A bit hypocritical, of course, but that's again, that's where we're at. And the reality is that I think part of it is because the lack of transparency. This is my own opinion against that China just doesn't, they're just not transparent. Why should they be? They're a communist country. They're living in two worlds, communism and capitalism. And those two worlds are opposite polars of the systems. They won't meet in the middle. They won't. You will have struggles, and that's what China is going through. And so let's go ahead and share my screen here, and let's dive into this particular article. And this is from Georgetown Journal of Internal Affairs, okay? And it's De-dollarization, the Belt and Road Initiative, and the Future of the Chinese Yuan. And this was April 18th was when it was written. For a while, globalization of the yuan seemed inevitable. In this article, we explore the recent development regarding the Chinese currency, showing how the speculative attack in 2016 has shifted the priorities of Chinese authorities. Instead of full-blown de-dollarization strategy and Belt and Road Initiative, China now focuses on developing cross-border yuan-denominated trade settlement systems. Well, who are they copying here? The United States, right? So that's what they're trying to do. Now, what were they doing before is trying to work with us, but now we're saying, hey, time out. You got to change some stuff. State-owned companies have a limited ability to purchase foreign companies as in the past, and the government has stopped making voluminous loans to poor countries. We haven't, as the United States. We haven't. They have. We haven't. China now pursues tight controls over capital outflows and a slightly more volatile renminbi. I mispronounce that word every time, so I apologize. Okay, introduction. China no longer seeks a global yuan due to actions state-owned companies and Chinese individuals moving money abroad. In 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative was organized to expel US dollar from the Chinese economy and limit the need for market interventions. This didn't work out so well for them. That's why they're changing their initiative. That's why they're saying, "Hey, well, oh, maybe we don't want to seek the globalization of the yuan." Right? However, Chinese state-owned companies initiated a speculative attack that forced the hand of the People's Bank of China. Chinese authorities propped up capital markets, restricting households that sought to move capital overseas. Meanwhile, the United States has increasingly weaponized the global greenback, and the increasing threat of U.S. sanctions has limited the options of Chinese policymakers. All right, let's talk about this. Okay, weaponizing the global greenback is being said as a bad thing. Let's take another history lesson. What would happen when two countries disagreed with each other and could not come to an agreement about that? What would happen? That's right, there'd be war. We see it today. Right now, at this time of this recording, there's countries that are at war with each other. Okay. So rather than killing people and being humane, because guess who doesn't like that? Humans, the left, doesn't like that people die. The right don't like that people die. None of us want people to die. So the government, the United States, decided that if we are working in a globalized market and somebody's not doing something that meets the overall market, what was agreed upon, yeah, we're going to create sanctions. We're going to do certain things. And so you're saying that we're weaponizing the dollar as a bad thing. That's actually saving lives. We're not going to war. We're not destroying or killing people. Yes, both countries and most countries build a military just in case it comes to that. But stop using this as a negative. This is what gives us in our country the ability to continue to be in our country and not have to speak a different language. Okay, so this is what everybody agreed to when the Great War ended. Okay, so at the end of the day, shut up. Because the other option is bullets, bombs, death. And we're seeing it now. Is that what we want? No. So shut up. Central to the yuan's future is whether China will attempt to de-dollarize the global economy or merely hedge against potential U.S. sanctions. China is constrained to the latter of the next few years. Attempting to de-dollarize would require China to maintain free capital markets. Free capital markets. Can a Chinese, sorry, not can a communist country have a free capital market? Again, this goes back to the two worlds that they've been trying to live in. Okay. And then they're not succeeding at it. Okay. Because they've spent years, generations teaching people that they're not free. So the people still aren't going to be free, but the markets are going to be free. How do you get the people to understand that the markets are free, but they're not free? That's what we in America have. We have the ability to spend money, consume, and that's what drives the markets. Our demand drives the markets. It's called supply and demand. The basics of economics. Go to any kind of econ class 101. One of the first things they're going to talk about is supply and demand. Our demand as consumers dictates the supply and how the markets will be driven, plain and simple. Okay. However, lessons from 2015 suggest that doing so would risk another financial crisis in China. Still, China should continue to build central bank agreements for cross-border trade settlements to counteract the U.S. dollar sanctioning power. Yeah, they should. And actually, every country should. Why? Because that's your political right. That's your right as a country. Your job is to run your country. But there is still going to be a dollar that is going to be the benchmark. Why? Because you need us. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. You need us because you're building and you're putting together goods and services for people who want to consume, who have the freedom to do so. If China stopped being a communist country and controlling what people said and thought, they would be the world power. They would not need the United States because their people would have the freedom to consume, purchase goods and services how they chose to. That's not the case. Power and greed has overridden the ability for power and greed to be okay. It's mind-boggling, right? The United States has power and greed, and capitalism's greedy, blah blah blah. Well, yes, but all these countries that hate the United States because we're greedy, what are you guys doing? You're taking power, that's greed, right? You're taking oil money, that's greed, right? All these terrorist groups and all that kind of stuff. We're the devil. Yeah, but you're happy to have our money. You're happy to keep money. So it's all about the basic sins of power and greed. Okay, I can keep going on. This article will be linked into the episode. You're welcome to read through the rest of it. I personally am not going to sit here and read the rest of this article to you, just because I don't think that's good content, quite honestly. And since you can read now, read this and ask questions, and I'll be happy to have a dialogue with you. Absolutely. Now, here is an interesting part because in the beginning of the article, they said they're not interested in, but this is now the title of this part of the section. For the first 5 years, let's see, after the great financial crisis, so 2008, Chinese foreign reserves doubled in US dollars to $4 trillion. Starting in 2013, the Chinese government generated considerable demand for the yuan by launching the Belt and Road Initiative while quickly selling the US dollar. Why were they selling the US dollar? Because there was value. With loans totaling over 120 billion, the backed project ranged from highways to power plants from 2000 to 2013, and infrastructure. Okay, highways and power plants in the United States and infrastructure creates jobs, which creates consumerism, which creates inflation, quite honestly, because more people have money who can grow. Now, more people making money too. Also, the government can tax more as well. They'll collect more taxes. This doesn't exist in China. That doesn't exist in China. So when the United States government creates these initiatives for highways and infrastructure, it pours money into the infrastructure, and that money comes back in various ways because people that are hired, they first of all, income taxes, right? Growth creates more consumerism, creates more transactions, creates more taxation of that dollar that was earned from that money that was put into the system. Okay. Now that doesn't always work. That doesn't always work. Okay. But the majority of the time, that's the focus. And it's not dollar for dollar either, meaning that if the government put a dollar into the system, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll get a dollar back. In some situations, it could be less, or it could actually be more. How's it more? Just that's the unfortunate thing about a interest backed dollar, right? It's not backed by anything tangible like gold. So your dollar can be paid back more because of the various transactions and taxes and fees and the actual dollar not having any particular value other than what the government says the value is. Okay. So we can keep reading on this down here, and it kind of goes through it. In the economic crisis in China's response, so 2015, Federal Reserve raised interest rates for the first time since 2008. And what did it happen? It hurt. It hurt the economy. The Chinese economy suffered a hard landing, became overvalued. Their currency became overvalued. Capital started flowing out of China rapidly, so that when you go to California, there's a lot of wealthy Chinese people who actually took their money and they're buying cash, real estate cash in the United States. Why real estate? Because it's tangible, it's physical asset. It can't be taken. It's there, right? And so this was a big issue to the currency within the Chinese government. Okay. Households sought to transfer as much money as possible when their limit for sending US dollars to foreign accounts reset. Almost $1 trillion left the Chinese economy in 2016. That's just in that time period alone. Okay. So imagine, so one of the benefits is the state of California, right? Here, California, and everyone thinks California is this amazing, successful state, and it really used to be. But all this influx of money buying California assets increased the value and the inflation in California, which drove a lot of California residents out of California, especially after 2020 and all the issues there, because the political aspect before 2020, people were, myself included, were able to just deal with it. The cost of living sucked, but we were able to deal with it because that's where our family and friends were. That's where our communities were. That's where we were. Yeah, of course the weather was great, but we weren't there because of the weather. We were there because family and friends and the opportunities that it provided. But when those opportunities started to dissipate, what was the point of being there? And it becomes more and more expensive. So that's why more and more residents started to exit California into other states in the union. So anyway, so hopefully this content was helpful. It caused a couple questions. Again, we didn't go through the entire article. I'm not giving you my opinion on the entire article. I've read what I read, commented on what I commented. You're welcome to read the rest of the article. It's not a long article. It's about a 12-minute read. But if you have questions after you read it, put it in the comments, and would love to have a dialogue about that. Maybe we do another episode of just answering questions that or comments that came from that particular. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm just a regular dude, just trying to run a business and help other business owners understand what's this all mean to us when we're talking about the United States and how we provide goods and services to our customers and our community. So, anyways, make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining. Take care. Bye bye.